Thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance today. Senator Carr's already traversed a lot of the issues I wanted to go to, and I will be putting a range of questions on notice around people that worked on the BCG report who may have been political staffers in previous roles and the other work that BCG undertakes for government. So just they're coming your way. I'm really interested in, you say incumbent banks are expected to retreat further from regional and remote areas in Australia, and the role that Ms Holgate's $220 million deal with Bank@Post had on the financial sustainability of rural and regional post offices. You see in this report with potentially 35% fewer branches and half as many ATMs as in 2030. Do you see the renegotiation then of the Bank@Post deal essential to maintaining the financial viability for rural and regional licensed post office holders?
Senator, I think when we looked at all the growth opportunities that were available to Australia Post, financial services is clearly one that will play a significant part. We didn't see, we saw that would continue to remain an opportunity and that they should continue to invest in that business, particularly in regional, rural and remote areas.
When you talk about issues that are subsets, not core business for Australia Post, how did BCG define core business for this review?
I will just quote from our executive summary, if I may. The statutory obligations of Australia Post, as we understand them, are to provide a universal service, letter service that's reasonably accessible by all Australians, to operate in a manner consistent with sound commercial practice, to provide a financial return to its shareholders.
Okay, so maybe drafted in 1901. Is that, in your view, having looked internationally, fit core services for government-owned postal operation in the 21st century, particularly given the growth of e-commerce?
That is, our review into the long-term financial sustainability of Australia Post didn't look into whether it comparisons with the expectations of other postal services. So I'm not in a position to answer that question.
Well, you said you looked internationally at comparisons around reform. I'm assuming other nations haven't kept their Royal Mail in 1901 standards.
What we did not look at was the expectation of delivery in other countries. We looked at how delivery happened, etc.
February last year, COVID arrives. What would you change in your executive summary? Would any of your, not recommendations, but suggestions, shall we say, to the Australia Post board for reform change?
I think the world has changed for all of us in the last year, and we would want to redo the analysis in a thorough manner to provide recommendations that are cognizant with where the world is at today.
But you're not going to get to do that, are you?
I don't expect so.
They've
employed taxpayer would have to fund it all over again, I'd suggest.
Well, I was going to go to that. What was the original quote you provided to complete the full review to the shareholder ministers?
The quote was 1.38 million, I believe.
So there was no additional requests for funds throughout the review?
Through the period of November 2019 to February 2020, there were no additional requests for funds. It was
throughout.
A fixed price.
So when did you sign the contract to do the review?
I will have to take that on notice.
Was it before November, the date you just gave me?
It was before we commenced the work. It would have been very close to that date, is my expectation. I will take it on notice.
So following signing of the contract for $1.3 million, there was no request for additional funding by BCG to complete the review?
That is correct, through to February 2020.
Well,
Yes,
What
to
about
complete the review.
No,
Yeah, let's not be
the
like,
answer is
you know,
the
because
answer
then
is no.
senators get very worried that there's something cute existing outside of those
There
days.
was no additional request.
So you did not seek additional payments at all?
No.
Okay. And the terms of reference didn't change throughout the review?
No, they did not change.
I'm going to keep mine on notice and give time to other senators. Thank you.
Could I just follow up on the contract? Were you aware at the time that your work would be kept secret and away from the eyes of the Australian people?
We were aware that we were producing a product for government, and it was government's decision what it would do with the product.
But there's nothing the public should be afraid of the government in your review, is there?
It's quite common for our work to be given to government and then for government to decide what it does with it.
Are you surprised they've kept it
That's not
secret?
an answer to my question, Ms Clancy.
I'm sorry?
That's not an answer to my question. I know it's common for government to commission reviews that they then choose not to release. My question to you was, there is nothing in this review that the public should not be in the public domain. There's nothing people should be afraid of.
I think, Senators, as you would know, there's been a public interest immunity claim on the report.
We're not
and
asking
one of
you
the
to speak to
Well,
government,
you're not a government minister.
No, and I'm not claiming that.
Good.
But in that claim, it notes that there is significant commercially sensitive information about the economics of Australia Post, which is the reason for it, which in the hands of competitors could be a significant advantage. And so there's, I think, a reasonableness to why the report in its entirety is not public. It's very sensitive commercial information.
All the competitors to deliver all the letters.
Parcels in particular. I'm sure that would be, you know, of much use to
That
some
we're
of
not
Australia Post's
divesting when
competitors.
the board has made very clear to this committee, as you will have seen in evidence last week, that they're not interested in divesting of any part of Australia Post.
Okay. Thank you, Senator McKenzie.